Oh, interesting. Well, I'd like to talk a little bit about the new leadership in the House and how the dynamics of working with the governor. It sounds like there's got to be some common ground. The issues are important enough, and people need to come to the table. How is Shap Smith working with that, and how we're moving forward with things some issues that were outside of your specific committees, which you will be dealing with relicensing of Vermont Yankee, the roads and bridges, et cetera. So if we get any feedback on that, Joey, do you have?
Well, I think that Shap has done a fabulous job of stepping into the role of Speaker. He was committed that we were going to be on the ground working, and to that goal, he named committees the first day of the session, which in my 8 years being there, that had never happened. So people really were getting to work very early. I mean, I think his bonding proposal for infrastructure here was very interesting. I think the governor also felt that it was very interesting. And I know that he's worked very hard to do that common ground thing as well, because we're very aware in this difficult time that we need to work together in order to keep Vermonters really sort of safe and housed and with food on the table. So he's done a great job, and I think he's shown a lot of leadership for us. I think we feel as though we're heading in the right direction. So,
yeah, I would agree. I think he's doing a wonderful job in it. I think what his approach has sort of paralleled what we see with our new president as well, where we certainly are seeing for many of us, unprecedented economic issues with an economy that really has been about as bad as it's been in many generations. And I think there's two approaches you can take. One is to just sort of accept that things are bad and just manage to the available funds. Or the other is to say, okay, what can we do to turn this thing around? And I think we've talked about the economic recovery bill in Washington, and I think it's a good example of saying we're not going to accept that things will just keep getting worse. We're going to make an investment in making sure that we turn this thing around as fast as we can. And I think the Speaker's job proposal, again, that he did on the first day of the session, which putting committees together and putting together a package for job recovery, I think is an immense amount of work. And to do it all on the first day, I think really shows that he's willing to go out there and propose creative ideas and really push for a response that Vermont families need right now.
On the other side of the aisle, how do you feel that the governor is he being receptive to some of these new ideas? You mentioned that he was intrigued by the bonding.
I do want to say that I think I appreciated the fact that Speaker Smith also spoke that we're not going to be able to solve this problem with just cuts and with the stimulus package. And early on he recognized that we probably are going to have some sort of a revenue package. And there have been conversations about, where's the best way to go for that, and I believe the governor is going to have to come to that realization at some point, that tax is not necessarily the worst word in the English language, and that during these difficult times it may very well be necessary for us to do that to balance our budget.
What kind of revenue proposals are being bandied about specifically?
I don't serve on the Ways and Means Committee anymore. I don't exactly know specific things. I know some members have offered different ideas, and I know the Ways and Means Committee are also pursuing whether it's to sort of collapse some of the brackets sort of at the top, or to do sort of
income tax.
For income tax, or to look at the Snelling surcharge that Governor Snelling did during an economic downturn. There certainly have been looks. I know one member has a tax suggested for soft drinks and things that are, sort of called the obesity tax, things that have sort of have a tendency especially for young people to really like, and they're not always so healthy for you. Can you think of other things? I mean, there's a myriad of things as we look at things, and it's a balancing act. But I certainly do think that, and as I said, I think the Speaker was early on to recognize that we're going to have to look at that as well.
And in terms of working with the governor, obviously it's something that we work very hard at, and I think Speaker Smith has worked to try to improve our relationship. It's one of the dynamics that I think at times frustrates us, which we continue to try to find a way to work through, is the governor has a tendency to sort of throw out ideas without having done a lot of background work, and whether it's last year's proposal to sell or lease the lottery, or this year the sort of 11th hour proposal to limit the amount of reimbursement that the state will give to local schools and push the rest onto local property taxes, or whether it's proposals to cut human services and programs for seniors and their prescription drugs. What tends to happen is that it's announced in a public forum, a press conference or an inaugural address, but there hasn't been any background to build support with local school boards, with those who would be affected. And so we get into this dynamic of being surprised by ideas and then having this long and lengthy sort of process of trying to figure out exactly what he means and then trying to figure out what to do about it. And it's been fairly frustrating over the years to see this pattern play out time and time again. It frankly is something that works pretty well in campaigns, but I'm not sure it works very well in terms of governing. And so we try to figure out, how do we engage a governor who tends to work on ideas in his office first and then bring them forward, as opposed to trying to work to build support and then make things public.
I'm just curious to get a sense. There's been talks about laying off state workers, or the size of the state employees for Vermont. Vermont is a state with just over 600,000 residents. What's your sense of the size of the state government in Vermont and the number of employees, and what kinds of proposals people are looking at?
Government operations is looking very carefully at all sorts of jobs throughout state government and asking the hard questions. Is this a vacancy, or does this mean a person's job? And how do you function if we do away with this? I think, again, Speaker Smith and President Pro Tem Shenlin just came forward with merging two of the departments.
And which
for efficiencies? It was
Commerce and
Labor.
Right.
And trying to sort of look at efficiencies there, and that would also create some job loss. But at least you could see the meaning to it, I think, as you go forward. As I said, the Department of Education was faced with 33 more people. They've already cut 25 down. So we're seeing...
That's out of a staff of about 100, right?
No, the 200.
200,
so they're down, yeah.
So it's about
But
25% of the staff in 2 years.
But a frustrating thing as well is many of these jobs are funded federally. And to have the strategic look at, how is this position funded? Does it make any sense to do away with a job that has federal funds behind it? So, and we don't get a sense that the administration is looking strategically at all of those things. Certainly, with efficiencies, there are going to be cuts in state government. There's no doubt about it. But I think having an organized, strategic look at how we're going to go about it is the question that is a little bit disturbing. And I know there's been a subcommittee formed on accountability type of thing to ask these questions. Also to, again, start looking for how can we be more efficient in delivering services. And we also know with the cuts state government, we're going to be asking people who are losing their jobs. There's going to be a lot of more services that are needed as well as we go forward,
especially in labor.
So it's kind of a catch-22.